Gentlemen, please take your seats. The program will now begin.
Hey, good afternoon, folks. Thanks so much for joining me here on Wave Now. I'm Myra Ansari. Hope you're having a great Thursday. So today we are going live to the USPS, United States Postal Service, where they are honoring Louisville's Muhammad Ali with unveiling 2 new stamps that will be honoring Ali. So we are going to be bringing you this press conference that is starting here now. Folks, we are having a little bit of audio issues, so I'm trying to figure that out, troubleshoot that. So just stay patient here with me, please.
For your room here on Earth. To my good friend and the team at the Ali Center, congratulations. What an incredible way to celebrate this special Kentuckian who exemplified what it means to be great. Thanks, everyone, and remember, life's short, so keep doing good things and be kind to each other.
I want to begin by expressing heartfelt gratitude to my friend and my partner, Lonnie Ali, for her vision, leadership at the Muhammad Ali Center. Lonnie, your stewardship has helped ensure that Muhammad Ali's legacy is protected with integrity, elevated with purpose, and shared with new generations in ways that are both authentic and transformative. At Authentic Brands Group, we are deeply committed to preserving and promoting the Muhammad Ali enduring legacy, not only by but by making sure what he stood for.
Hey, folks, I apologize for the audio issues that we are streaming right now. So I'm working on getting this fixed. So please just stay patient with me as we try to figure out what's causing the audio to be overmodulated and a little staticky there. So just hang tight. I know that I've got a number of you on the stream right now. So just stay with us until we get this resolved. Thanks.
Later this year, in partnership with Amazon Studio, starring Galen Rapp and produced by Michael B. Jordan. It's an extraordinary opportunity to introduce Muhammad Ali's story to audiences around the world, fresh energy and deep respect for his impact. So today, we celebrate with pride, with gratitude, and with joy. Thank you to the USPS, Lonnie, and the Ali family, to the Muhammad Ali Center, to every partner and team member who helped make this moment possible. I have another thing to say. This is one thing.
President of the University of Louisville, Jerry Brown. Thank you so much. Welcome everyone today to the University of Louisville Federal French Program. This is such a wonderful occasion to honor Louisville's favorite son, born forever Center. We feel so privileged to hold this event and to highlight our partnership with the Muhammad Ali Center. I want to take a moment to personally welcome Muhammad Ali Lonnie back to U of L. U of L and Lonnie have always had a long relationship, and Lonnie has been such a huge supporter. She's a proud member of Card Nation, and we are happy to have her. I have long been an admirer and fan of Muhammad Ali. My father was a huge fan, and he got me hooked at a young age. I remember to this day, at the age of 14, sitting up at 2 a.m. in Ireland to watch, in 1978, Ali fight and lose to Leon Spinks, and then 7 months later, to watch him beat Spinks to regain the heavyweight title for the 3rd time. He visited Ireland 3 times. He fought Alvin Blue Lewis in 1972 and in Croke Park and won by a knockout. He learned about Irish culture and sports and was fascinated by hurling, which, for those of you who don't know, is a traditional Celtic sport. The Irish fell in love with Ali. And that interview he gave was a famous interview that today people in Ireland remember because he's so identified with Irish struggles and the cause for civil rights in the United States. Ali visited Ireland actually 3 times. The last time he visited was in 2009, where he visited his ancestral home in Ennis, County Clare, where his grandfather, Abe Grady, was from. And of course, the greatest of all time has had so many ties to our great university. Our Muhammad Ali Scholars Program creates student leaders dedicated to service, community engagement, and civic responsibility. Our Muhammad Ali Institute for Peace and Justice advances the cause of peace building, social justice. In 2015, Muhammad Ali received the inaugural Grawemeyer Spirit Award recognizing his humanitarian efforts and inspiring actions. And Muhammad was a true cardinal. His son, Asad Ali, played baseball here and is a current member of our athletic staff. Muhammad was honorary captain of our 2007 Orange Bowl championship team. Even nearly 10 years since his passing, Muhammad remains an inspiration, not only for our student athletes, but for all Cardinals who care about making our world a better place. We are so happy to have you here today, and we are so excited to be part of today's program. And thank you all for being a part of history today. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, your master of ceremony, Bob Costas.
Thank you all. I've been around a long time, but in truth, my career, for the most part, postdates Muhammad Ali's active career as a fighter. And yet I was privileged to be part, a small part, of one of the greatest moments of his life. The 1996 Olympics in Atlanta was on NBC, and I was the host, along with the late, great Dick Enberg, of the opening ceremony. Now, normally, you're given notes on all the torchbearers, and certainly you're told who the final torchbearer will be so that you can prepare some thoughts. But in this particular case, getting Muhammad Ali to be that person took some doing, which I had nothing to do with. Dick Ebersol, the president of NBC Sports, and Don Mischer, who was esteemed as the producer and director and kind of the master of the big events, Kennedy Center, Bahamas inaugural, Super Bowl halftime, and Olympics opening ceremonies when they were held in the United States. Mischer and Ebersol went to the Atlanta Olympic Organizing Committee with the idea that Muhammad Ali should be the final torchbearer. And there was resistance. One of them was, he may be a hero to you. He ain't that. And Ebersol and Mischer convinced no, there had been a change. Yes, Ali's career had been controversial. There was a time when he was a polarizing figure. But by 1996, and certainly by now, the vast majority of thinking and aware people realized that he was on the right side of history. And so luckily, Ebersol and Mischer prevailed. But here was the theatrical touch. They told me and Dick Enberg, we're not going to tell you who the closing torchbearer is. We want your reaction to be as spontaneous as the people in the stadium and the billions of people watching. And in truth, barely people even knew beforehand that it was going to be Muhammad. They rehearsed it one time in an empty stadium. The secret would never get out. There was no publicity. And so, when Janet Evans, the great Olympic swimmer, climbed those steps and handed the torch to Muhammad, audible gasps, and several seconds of silence beyond those gasps until the realization set in. Yes, it was Muhammad Ali. And then those gasps gave way to thunderous applause and cheering. And in that moment, the rarest of moments, when you know that every person watching in one way or another has the same understanding. Here was this man who had gone through many storms, storms of battles in the ring, storms of controversy outside it, and now, once the most beautiful and nimble of athletes, was even then, 20 years prior to his death, even then, showing the visible effects of his Parkinson's syndrome. The most entertaining and voluble of athletes, reduced in his ability to communicate. The deep ironies of that, not lost on anyone. And yet, this man who once declared, I'm the greatest, and not only that, I'm too pretty to be a fighter. He was so deeply human, so deeply compassionate, so deeply decent, so broad in his understanding of what his life had meant, that he was willing to present himself proudly and nobly to the world in that condition. Everyone understood that. And they also understood in that moment that whatever the controversies had been, yes, he remained a symbol of principle and integrity, but also he had become a symbol of international goodwill, of peace, compassion, and humanity. When people ask me about the greatest moments that I've ever been lucky enough to be part of, that's always at or near the top of the list, even though I said virtually nothing. Because when he stepped out into the spotlight there, the image itself was so arresting that it spoke for itself. That then is my connection to Muhammad Ali, and why Lonnie, we became friends after that, and our connection continued. But it was that moment that forged that connection. So that's why I'm here and happy to be so. At this time, I ask you all to stand, if you are able, for the presentation of colors by the Central High School ROTC Color Guard, followed by the singing of the national anthem by internationally recognized vocal artist Victoria Brinker.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming? Whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight were the ramparts we watched, were so gallantly streaming. And the rockets in the bombs bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Thank you, Victory, for that stunningly beautiful performance, and to the color guard from Central High School, which Muhammad Ali as Cassius Clay attended. Everybody, please be seated. You know, as the last strains of the national anthem reverberate, it's well to remind us that in a very real sense, Muhammad Ali was a patriot. His story is a deeply American story, and his example stands as a reminder, perhaps particularly in these times, that often the greatest examples of patriotism come in challenging power rather than bowing to it. So we honor Muhammad Ali here in his hometown, a city that shaped him and that he reshaped forever. And now it's my pleasure to introduce our first speaker, the 51st Mayor of Louisville, Craig Greenberg. Craig.
Well, thank you very much, Bob. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Louisville. Welcome to Ali's Louisville. And for those of you who flew in to be with us here today, I hope you had a wonderful experience at the Muhammad Ali International Airport. And thank you so much to the U.S. Postal Service for honoring our hometown hero, the first Louisvillian to be a United States postal stamp. There could be no one better than Muhammad Ali for this great honor. As we all know, Muhammad Ali was not just a champion in the ring. He was a champion of conscience. Ali taught us the power of courage, the need to speak the truth, the responsibility that each one of us has to stand up for one another, the importance of respect and peace, values that were important in 1996, as Bob just told you, and values that might be more important than ever today in these challenging times we're living in. Because at this time when our country faces such division, uncertainty, unnecessary violence, and real challenges, Muhammad Ali's life reminds us that strength is not found in dominance. Strength is found through dignity, through caring, through unity. He was a true vision of an equitable America and a peaceful world. And that's why many years after his athletic career ended, and still many years after his passing, he still inspires us here in Louisville and people all around the entire world. He was truly one of a kind. In the ring, he knocked his opponents out, and outside of the ring, he lifted people up. That's what it was all about for Muhammad Ali. I stand here today as one of many public servants who have been inspired by the GOAT, by his values, by his courage, and by his actions. And I work every day to live those values, to promote those values throughout Louisville on behalf of everyone. Now, while I may be representing one of Muhammad Ali's 40 appearances on a Sports Illustrated cover here today, we're celebrating something even more special, a one-of-a-kind tribute for Muhammad Ali to be on a forever stamp. This stamp matters so much. It's a symbol that in a world often filled with darkness, a light from Louisville can make it brighter. Lonnie, thank you so much for everything you have done to keep the champ's life, vision, and energy alive in Louisville and around the world. Thank you to the rest of the Ali family for your continued support and for sharing the greatest of all time with the world. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mayor Greenberg. Much will be said today about Muhammad Ali's athletic brilliance, and certainly he was among the most compelling athletes the world has ever known. But Muhammad also understood that greatness is measured not only by titles, but by actions that uplift others. Ali personally answered fan mail from around the world. Impossible to answer each and every one, but he did his best, often with handwritten cards and thoughtful replies. Those cards and letters remind us that small acts of connection can create lifelong meaning. That same spirit of connection lies at the heart of the U.S. Postal Service. So with that, I'm pleased to introduce the dedicating official for the Muhammad Ali Forever Stamps, Ronald A. Stroman. Governor Stroman serves on the Postal Service's Board of Governors, which helps direct the organization's expenditures, long-range planning, and policies. He previously served as the 20th Deputy Postmaster General, the second highest ranking postal executive following more than 30 years of leadership in public service. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Governor Ron Stroman.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the U.S. Postal Service, it's an honor to join you today as we dedicate a forever stamp in honor of the champ, Muhammad Ali. Today, we honor a man who was the world heavyweight boxing champion, who reshaped sports, fought for his beliefs, and became a symbol of courage, decency, and love. Muhammad Ali revolutionized heavyweight boxing with speed and quickness that defied heavyweight logic, supernatural reflexes, and dazzling footwork. All transformed heavyweight boxing from brute force into artistry. Now, those of you who saw the champ, remember the Ali shuffle. There was the double clutch shuffle. There was the Russian tank, the rope-a-dope, the bolo punch, the fake bolo punch, the acu-punch, the anchor punch, just to name a few. And of course, we all recall his signature refrain: float like a butterfly, sting like a bee, rumble, young man, rumble. Muhammad Ali elevated his key boxing matches into global extravaganzas. His epic fights with Joe Frazier and George Foreman were cultural moments. The Thriller in Manila, the Rumble in the Jungle. Rarely had the world seen an athlete who could command the world's attention, was funny and charming. In so doing, he paved the way for generations of athletes to be outspoken, socially aware, and totally authentic. Muhammad Ali's fights extended far beyond the ring. In 1967, at the height of his prime boxing years, Ali made a decision that would risk jail, his professional career, and the support of millions of people. He refused to be drafted into the Vietnam War, citing his religious beliefs, his opposition to the war, and the treatment of Black Americans in the Jim Crow South. Ali was stripped of his heavyweight title, banned from boxing, and sentenced to 5 years in prison. 4 years later, a unanimous Supreme Court overturned his conviction after determining that the Selective Service Board wrongly denied his conscientious objector status. For Ali, standing on his principles was more important to him than his professional career or the money he would lose. As Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. once said, the ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands in times of challenge and controversy. Beyond sports and protest, Muhammad Ali's life was marked by extraordinary humanitarianism. As a global goodwill ambassador, he dedicated himself to service. He traveled extensively, promoting peace and understanding across racial, religious, and national lines. He helped secure the release of 15 American hostages from Iraq, supported hunger and relief efforts, and raised awareness for Parkinson's disease after his own diagnosis. Even as the disease slowed his movements, it never silenced his message. As Ali said, service to others is the rent you pay for your room here on earth. And he lived those words every day. Today, as we dedicate this stamp, we remember a man who dared to be bold, stood on principle, and used his fame to improve humanity. The stamp design created by art director Antonio Acala captures both Ali's formidable intensity and his captivating charm. The photograph of him in his boxing stance reminds us of his unique athletic gifts, his lightning speed and deceptive power. The alternating placement of his name recalls the bold topography of classic boxing posters, while also echoing the chant that greeted him around the world: Ali, Ali, Ali. The picture in the selvage, the area surrounding the stamps, showcases Ali smiling in a pinstripe suit, reflecting the humanitarian and cultural icon he became beyond the ring. Every stamp we issue reflects a piece of America's spirit and who we are as a nation. For the Postal Service, this is more than a stamp. It's a national thank you. It's a tribute to a man whose conviction, dedication, and spirituality continue to inspire. As Ali put it, quote, "I wanted to use my fame and this face that everyone knows so well to help uplift and inspire people around the world." That desire to uplift, to inspire, remains one of his many lasting gifts. And starting today, every time someone places this stamp on a card or a letter, they help carry that spirit forward. To Ali's Tulani and Ali's family, thank you for sharing him with us and the world. To the city of Louisville, thank you for nurturing a young man who would one day speak to the hearts of millions. And to everyone gathered here today, thank you for helping a legacy defined by greatness. And now, at this time, I'd like to invite our guests to join me for the official unveiling of the Muhammad Ali Forever Stamp.
You know, just once, I'd like to approach a microphone and not have to lower it. Governor Stroman stood tall in more ways than one. And there isn't much else left to say because he touched on just about all of it. So at this time, we're honored to welcome a musical performance by Louisville native and gospel recording artist Patricia Matheson. Please welcome Pat to the stage.
You're broken down and tired of living life on a merry-go-round, and you can't find the fighter, but I see it in you, so we gonna walk it out. Move mountains, we gonna walk it out. Move mountains. And I'll rise up, I'll rise like the day, I'll rise up, I'll rise unafraid, I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. I'll rise up, high like the waves, I'll rise up, in spite of the ache, I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. For you, for you, for you, for you. When the silence isn't quiet and it feels like it's getting hard to breathe, and you can't find the fighter, but I promise we'll bring the world to its feet. Move mountains, bring it to its feet. Move mountains. And I'll rise up, I'll rise like the day, I'll rise up, I'll rise unafraid, I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. For you, for you, for you, for you. All we need is hope. And for that we have each other. And for that we have each other. And we will rise, we will rise, we will rise. Oh, we'll rise. I'll rise up, rise like the day, I'll rise up. In spite of the ache, I will rise 1,000 times again. I'll rise up, high like the waves, I'll rise up. In spite of the ache, I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. For you, for you, for you, for you.
Patricia Matheson. That was wonderful, Pat. And now we'd like to introduce one of the many members of our program today from the Muhammad Ali Center's board. Peter Villegas is a nationally respected leader in public affairs and civic engagement with senior leadership experience at the Coca-Cola Company and J.P. Morgan Chase. He's also a member of the Citizen Stamp Advisory Committee, which recommends subjects of broad national interest to the Postmaster General as future stamps. Please welcome Peter Villegas.
Hello, Louisville. I'm from Los Angeles. Hello, Louisville. Thank you for the snow last night. Get the champ a stamp. You want to know about the story, how we got the champ a stamp? It has been a wonderful 3-year, exciting 3-year journey, great teamwork, great support. But I want to highlight 4 specific reasons why this is so special to me. First, why is this stamp important? Not just a stamp, but why is it meaningful? One reason is that there's no question today's social environment is extremely challenging. It's troubling, and we need some inclusive compassion. Even in 2026, we still need the champ's voice to help us. That is why, as the 7th son of a Mexican immigrant, I'm very proud to play the key role in this effort and show what the product of immigrants can do. That a son of a Mexican immigrant from Victorville, California can help get a champ the stamp for his hero, an African-American Muslim from Louisville, Kentucky. The second reason why this is such a highlight for me is Mayor Greg Fisher. Now, we were in LA and not knowing the mayor, we were going to the same conference, and I saw this good-looking, distinguished man. I went up to him, I said, "Would you like to share a cab?" Now, if you're ever in LA, I wouldn't recommend when a stranger comes up to you, if you'd like to share a cab, I wouldn't recommend you get in, but the stars were aligned and the mayor said yes. He introduced himself. He said, "Mayor, I'm Mayor Greg Fisher from Louisville." I immediately said, "Muhammad Ali." And a friendship over a decade long has been developed and strengthened and loved. Now, if the mayor does not get in that cab, we're not here today celebrating this stamp. Instead of discriminating against a bald man, the mayor showed the spirit of Muhammad Ali by embracing my outreach with love, with warmth, with friendship. The third reason is Lonnie Ali, Mrs. Louisville Lip. The mayor asked if I would consider coming on to the Muhammad Ali Center board. Shout out to all the staff and the board members from the Muhammad Ali Center. And I said, of course, and that I would get a call from Lonnie Ali because she wanted to meet me and learn about me. And usually when people come to Los Angeles, you meet them in a hotel lobby or you meet them at a restaurant. And I asked what hotel, and she said, "No, I'm coming to you. I'm coming to your home." I said, "You're coming to my home in Rancho Cucamonga?" That humble act was vital to this effort. If she doesn't come to my home, there is no stamp. After sharing some coconut cream pie, we went up to my office where I have a bunch of Muhammad Ali memorabilia, but also I have poster stamps of Roberto Clemente and Cesar Chavez. Thank you, USPS, for acknowledging those 2 Hispanic heroes. I asked Lonnie, did the champ have a stamp? She said no. And like a jab, pop, the idea was born to get the champ a stamp. She didn't stereotype me. She didn't judge me. She wanted to learn about me. She showed respect, warmth, and friendship. Those 2 acts by those 2 individuals are the pillars for why we're here today. Thank you, Lonnie and Mayor Fisher. Now, the fourth reason, as the president said about your father, you hear a lot of stories about fathers and sons. I got the chance to work with my daughter, Ali, who's here with us today, on this initiative, Get the Champ a Stamp. It was Ali who came up with the idea for the merch, for the Get the Champ t-shirts, hashtag Get the Champ a Stamp social media. And to work alongside her was one of the best things I've ever experienced. Now, during this, I sent Ali to the Muhammad Ali Center to work at the MAC for a few days and earn her stripes. And I didn't go with her. I didn't want to interrupt or influence her experience. When I picked her up from the airport to go home, we pulled into the garage. Now, in my garage, it's covered with sports and Muhammad Ali pictures. I went into the house and my daughter never came in. About 10 minutes later, where's she at? I go out to the garage. She's in the garage looking at all the Muhammad Ali pictures and quotes. And I said to her, I said, Champ, these pictures have been up here since before you were born. What are you doing? And she said, Pop, yeah, but now I get it. Now I understand. And my hope with this stamp is that many people get it, more people get it, not just the future generation, but the current generation. They get it and embrace the principles of this man and learn that we can live with one another with compassionate love. Now, let me close with the poem. The champ, you know, I'm the youngest of 7 boys, so I got beat up for waking up. I had to figure out some confidence, and as a young boy, Muhammad Ali gave me that confidence. He taught me how to be comfortable being uncomfortable. So I'm going to be uncomfortable right now. I wrote a poem. This will be the first and only time I read a poem, but it's worthy. I wrote it for this cause. You ready? Okay. Lonnie gazed at my poster stamps of Roberto Clemente and Cesar Chavez, 2 legends who are Hispanic, but I didn't have one for Muhammad Ali, and I started to panic. When she told me Muhammad had no stamp, the thought popped, well, let's get one for the champ. Here we are gathered celebrating this huge success thanks to the intelligence of USPS. So from this day forward, when a child looks up at night, they'll see a group of stars smiling extra bright. That child will ask, is that the Big Dipper? Tell them the truth and say, no, that's the Louisville Lipper. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Peter. Now I'd like to introduce another member of the Muhammad Ali Center's board, John Ramsey. John is the Director of City Partnerships for the city of Louisville and a close friend of the champ for nearly 4 decades. He co-hosts the Ali and Me podcast with Lonnie, using original audio to explore the champ's life beyond boxing and to inspire others. Now, we talked beforehand, and John beseeched me to introduce him in the voice of Howard Cosell. Almost all of us who are sports broadcasters, it's kind of obligatory that you do a Cosell. So I'll tell you about the first time I crossed paths with him. 1983 World Series in Baltimore, the Phillies against the Orioles. And ABC is broadcasting it, Al Michaels, Earl Weaver, and Howard Cosell. Cosell is standing in the doorway of the rickety old broadcast booth at the old Memorial Stadium in Baltimore, wearing that hideous yellow ABC Sports jacket that you all remember from all of his unforgettable interactions with Muhammad Ali. And by the way, you want to talk about a certain kind of courage? Yeah, Cosell could be obnoxious, he could be overbearing, but like Muhammad, he had principle. He stood up for Muhammad Ali. He stood up for the other athletes of their time who were socially aware, and he had to put up with the blowback and a lot of mail when people wrote letters, didn't send emails or put stuff on Instagram or Facebook. Thousands upon thousands of letters, many of them of support, but others landed on the desk of Roone Arledge, the president of ABC Sports, saying, get that goddamn New York Jew who wants to support that N-word boxer, get him the F off the air. In his own way, Arledge didn't bend. He knew that Cosell was saying something important, and he did it continually, no matter what the opposition was. He also, like Muhammad, was in his own way, much different than Muhammad, entertaining. So if he wasn't entertaining, if he wasn't compelling, if people didn't watch him half the time as much to hate him as to applaud him, then he never would have had the platform to do what he did. And the most meaningful chapter of Cosell's storied life is his connection to Muhammad Ali. So anyway, he's standing in the doorway, that toupee perched precariously atop his head. I think Muhammad once said to him, Howard Cosell, you're a phony, and your hair comes from the tail of a pony. And then Howard answered by saying, Muhammad, you're awfully truculent tonight. Nonetheless, I approached Cosell and I say, Mr. Cosell, I'm just a young guy. Mr. Cosell, my name is Bob Costas. It's a pleasure to meet you. And he said, I know who you are. You're the child who rhapsodizes about the infield fly rule. I'm sure you'll have a fine career. And he flicked a cigar ash and he walked away. And my first thought is, this is the biggest schmuck I ever met. But in the next instance, I realized, no, I just got the full Cosell treatment. And it's an honor that he even knew who I was. And in subsequent years, we got along just fine. And so with that as the background, ladies and gentlemen, here's a man who's meaningful in so many ways, especially to the Muhammad Ali Center, which celebrates the life of the incomparable champ. Ladies and gentlemen, John Ramsey.
I may have whooped Joe Frazier and Ken Norton, man, but look how pretty he looks. Man, just check him out, man. Man doesn't age. He looked fantastic.
By the way, when Cosell said to him, he said, "You're being mighty truculent." Muhammad said,
If truculent's good, then I'm that.
so I've been honored with the privilege to talk a little bit about my friendship with Muhammad Ali. When Muhammad and I became friends in 1980, it was the athlete that caused my hero worship. Here's a guy, big, fast, 3-time heavyweight champ of the world, and he was from Louisville, Kentucky. But after traveling with him to Australia, England, Ireland, Canada, many cities throughout the U.S., heavyweight championship fights, 2 Kentucky derbies, I came to realize that his athleticism was secondary to the content of his heart. Whenever he'd come to Louisville, one of his favorite places to go was the Children's Hospital. And I remember Muhammad told me the first time I drove him there, he said, John, there's one rule. He said, you can't tell anyone. He said, because if you tell someone, he said, maybe they tell the press. And then the press comes and it becomes about me. He said, this isn't about me. He said, I want to see the kids. Whenever I would fly with Muhammad, you had to be very leery because the line would start and Muhammad, he flew commercial. So they'd be signing autographs, taking pictures. And I might miss that flight because I knew this is the way Muhammad worked. We're coming from Atlanta to Louisville. We're just about to get on the plane. And Muhammad says, John, when's the next flight to Louisville? Oh, man. I look up, Muhammad, 2.5 hours. He said, let's stay and make some people happy. I said, I'll tell you what, we'll stay and I'll watch you make them happy. If you went to dinner with Muhammad, it was a 3-hour affair because Muhammad wanted to make sure everyone in the restaurant, from the people who were there to eat, the wait staff, the cooking crew, he wanted to make sure everybody had an autograph and a picture. He just loved people. He connected with them so well. About 2 months before Muhammad passed, Lonnie was nice enough to invite me to their home in Arizona. This wasn't unusual. I'd come out there a couple of times a year, or he'd visit here and we'd see each other. But this one was a little bit different because when I got there, I don't know if you guys have ever, when I arrived there, if you've ever been around a Parkinson's patient, they're really good in the morning because they've had a good night's sleep. It's before they take their meds. And Muhammad usually had about a 2-3 hour window where he was Muhammad. We watched the news. He's very inquisitive, good conversation. But I noticed on this trip that that window was very short, like 30 minutes, and he'd lost a lot of weight. And so I knew what Lonnie was doing, and I can't thank her enough. She was giving me a chance to say goodbye to Muhammad. So real quickly, before I left, I was grabbing my bags. Lonnie had a car out there waiting for me. And she goes, why don't you go in and talk to the champ? I said, is he up? She goes, yeah, he's up. He's doing really well. So I went in. Muhammad's sitting on the bed. He's eating fruit. Lonnie always made sure he lived like a king. Whatever he wanted, it was there. And I had that window, that sweet spot. And I remember looking Muhammad in the eyes. And I go, Muhammad, I got to talk to you for a second. I said, when I first met you, it was about the athlete. I said, it was all about your athleticism and physicality. You were my hero. And I said, you remain my hero. I said, except for one thing. I said, I could care less if you ever boxed around. I've seen the way you treat people. I said, thank you, because he taught me kindness at another level. And anyway, before I left, kissed him on the forehead, and I said, I see you, champ. And I was walking towards the door, And Muhammad at that time, because of the Parkinson's, could not really project his voice, but he could do that knock knock really well. Lonnie can do it very well too. Yes, there she goes. So I turn around and Muhammad goes like this. And that was it. That was the last time that I saw Muhammad alive. So I want to end on this. When Lonnie was nice enough, when Muhammad passed, she gifted me a few of his shirts. And on special Ali occasions, I wear them. And today I wore them. And because Muhammad lost weight as he got older, as many of us do, they fit for the most part, except for one thing. Muhammad, I'm a 34, 35. Muhammad, So, and you know what it was? It's that left jab. It's that famous left jab that allowed him to whoop Joe Frazier, to whoop Ken Norton. That pretty jab of his was the reason why. And I like wearing these shirts because it reminds me. Whenever I put them on, I look at that and I say, you know what? I'll never be as physically gifted. I'll never be as handsome. I'll never be as athletic. But there's one thing I can be, and that's kind. And that is what my friend Muhammad Ali taught me.
You know the old saying, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Well, our next speaker's career exemplifies that. The legendary photographer Neil Leifer. If you don't know him, you know his images of Muhammad. You know the image of Muhammad Ali standing over the fallen Sonny Liston in Lewiston, Maine, scowling at him. Get up, sucker, get up. And then the next year, perhaps the pinnacle of Ali's athletic brilliance, the way he dispatched Cleveland Williams at the Astrodome in Houston, and Neil had the presence of mind to go way upstairs to the top of the Astrodome and get this incredible shot down to the ring. And it was different then. There weren't all kinds of sponsorships all around. It was just the pristine canvas and these two fighters. Picture worth 1,000 words? Pictures like those, so many of which were conceived and taken by Neil Leifer, were worth 1,000,000 words, and they reverberate still. Ladies and gentlemen, Neil Leifer.
Well, before I start, I want to thank Lonnie Ali for including me in this magnificent program. I can't begin to tell you how honored I am to be here. And having had Muhammad as a friend, good friend, for 60 years, 55, 60 years, somewhere in that, I'm beginning to lose track of years and ages. But I can tell you there is nobody I can think of, and I worked as a photojournalist in the news business for years, so I don't know anybody who more deserving of this magnificent, special honor than Muhammad Ali, and I'm so proud to be here speaking about him. But I want to start at the beginning in terms of me. I was a young photographer in 1966 when I was first assigned to photograph Muhammad Ali one-on-one in the studio. Well, when I was 23 years old, and Ali and I were the same age. When I was 23 years old, at the very most, I looked 15. So I will tell you, I was thrilled. I mean, the heavyweight champion is coming to my studio to pose for me. Well, he walks in all by himself. Well, one person, he had Herbert Muhammad, his manager. Herbert was a very serious amateur photographer. The first thing I noticed was Herbert had a couple of Hasselblads. They were better than the camera I was using. But the two of them came in, and I wasn't sure how much time I was going to get, so I asked Ali to get into gloves and trunks real quickly. This was going to be a Sports Illustrated cover. And he got in gloves and trunks, and the first thing he said to me is, he said, I introduced myself, of course, and he said, so where's the photographer? And I said, you're looking at him, champ. And he said, come on, you're a kid. Where's the real photographer? And he turned to Herbert and he said, which I'll never forget, he said, Herbert, do you think this kid knows what he's doing? Well, I had rehearsed for 2 days and I had tested with a stand-in for Ali, and I had marked 2 spots on the floor where where his right foot and his left foot would go. I was shooting with a large format camera, which you have very little depth of field with. So I needed Ali to stand still. Well, little did I know, standing still was not one of his great skills. But I said, Muhammad, stand right over here for a second. And he got in position for him, and I was ready to shoot. I'm going to shoot Polaroids. You shoot a Polaroid as a test to be sure everything's working right. And I said, Muhammad, stand right here. Before I could take the first Polaroid, he said, wait a minute. What are those umbrellas? I had 2 umbrella strobe lights in front. He said, I was with Gordon Parks yesterday. You know Gordon Parks? I said, yes, Jim, I know him. I'm a big fan of his pictures. He said, well, he didn't use umbrellas. Is it raining in here? I said, no, it's not raining. I said, would you just stand still for a minute? Before I could get my first picture, he turned to Herbert again and he said, Herbert, you sure this kid knows what he's doing? I said, please, let me show you the Polaroid. I was ready to shoot my first Polaroid, didn't come close. Muhammad looks at the light behind over his right shoulder and left shoulder. I had backlit him because I was using a dark background, and you want to have a black man. I wanted to be sure he'd stand out. I didn't want him to meld into the background. He said, what's that light back there? I said, that's my backlight, champ. By now I'm beginning to think he's never going to stand still. And I said, it's going to make you look great. He said, so he stood still for maybe 1/10 of a second, and I took my first Polaroid. Well, in those days, it took 60 seconds for the Polaroid to process, to develop. And you can't take it out of the folder. I am now wrestling with the champ who's trying to pull, and I was no bigger than I am now. I couldn't, I got the heavyweight champ. He's trying to pull the picture out of my hand so he can open it, except he had no intention of waiting 60 seconds. It's probably the only time I could look anybody in the eye and say, I beat Muhammad Ali in this thing, because I managed somehow to keep the picture in my hand for 60 seconds. And then I opened it up, and at that point, Muhammad grabbed it right away. And he starts looking at it. I see him light up. He's smiling, and he looks at Herbert, and he said, you know, Herbert, this is pretty good. Actually, maybe this kid does know what he's doing. And then he took, which he was very good at, you can't do this better in Hollywood. He took a very dramatic pause, and he looked at the picture again. He said, you know, Neil, this is a pretty good picture. I like it. And he took another dramatic pause, and he said, but then again, how can you miss with a subject like me? Anyway, thank you all thanks again for having me here. And I'm thrilled. Like I say, I covered 30 of his fights, 35 fights, and 30 one-on-one sessions. I took pictures at his homes in Arizona, in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, in Berrien Springs, Michigan. He was the greatest subject. Anybody that was lucky enough to work with Muhammad became a hero with you. Your boss, my boss at the picture editor at Sports Illustrated, thought I was really, what a good photographer this kid is. Well, you couldn't miss. If you miss with Ali, I said something upstairs when the press interviewed us. I said that the one thing I can tell you, any photographers are not modest guys normally. When you meet a photographer who's modest, you know the pictures aren't going to be so good. I don't think anybody ever could say that if you failed with Muhammad Ali, you needed to look for another job. Thank you very much.
And at this point, another brief musical interlude. Let's bring Victory back up here. Victory Brinker. I turned to Artis over here and I said, correct me if I'm wrong. Vickery's only 15 years old. He said, you are wrong. She's 14 years old. 13? She's aging backwards? She's 13. My God. How about that? And now I'm very pleased to introduce two stars of the forthcoming Amazon series, The Greatest, the first authorized scripted series about the life of Muhammad Ali. Please welcome the rising and very talented actor Jalen Best, who will star as Ali. And when you see him, you know that this is a stroke of genius when it comes to casting. And the creator of the hit Prime Video series Cross, who is the showrunner for The Greatest series. That's Ben Watkins. Please welcome Jalen Best and Ben Watkins.
Woo. So we plan some remarks to say together. We got a little act we do.
Yeah.
No, just kidding. I'm gonna talk first and then hand it off. It's funny, we don't want to hold people too long, but like John Ramsey said, they recommend we do 2 minutes, and even John Ramsey said, well, even one round in boxing is 3 minutes. Can I get 3 minutes? But what I have to say won't take very long. For me, Muhammad Ali is a childhood hero of mine. When I was a kid, if you ever saw those little forms you would get in class that would have all the books, you get these scholastic book things. And the first time I had a chance to order a book, the first book I ordered was a kid's version of a biography of Muhammad Ali, because I had heard my mother say his name and I saw the picture and I was so fascinated with the picture. And from that day forward, it's been a love affair for me with Muhammad Ali. So he went from being a childhood hero to a lifelong hero. And then I find myself with the incredible, awesome responsibility and privilege to tell a story about Muhammad Ali, The Greatest, which is the series that Bob was mentioning is coming out later this year. And when I went to do that, something dawned on me. And it was that I had, like many of us, put Muhammad Ali into this stratosphere. He was not a person to me. He was a superhero. He was an icon. He was a myth. And when I went to dig in and start telling the story, it reminded me that he was actually a person, flesh and bone and heart and blood and sweat and tears. And that realization actually made me admire him even more, because then it wasn't some comic book superhero that stood up and faced down the United States government or the power structure in boxing or the racists or whatever you want to say in all the challenges. It was a real person who stood up when nobody else would. It was a real person who spoke out when everyone else was silent. It was a real person who stepped forward when everyone else was turning their backs. And I not only appreciated him more with that, it also served as a call to action for me, because I'm a real person too. And I'm not going to hold myself to the standard that he set, because I don't think anybody else can meet that. I consider him the most accomplished and celebrated hero of our lifetime and many others. But I do know that I can make a difference in my own small way. And I challenge myself to do that now, because I can't make the excuse that you got to be a superhero to go out and speak the truth. You got to be a superhero to go out and extend a helping hand. You don't have to do that. You got to be a person. You got to be a person with conviction and a commitment to serve. And I think all of us can have that. And when I sit here today and I think about all of us being brought together, even if it was that simple, even if it was that small, that you just follow that example that Muhammad Ali brought us here together. He did it again. And when those letters go out and that correspondence goes out, even if it's just somebody paying a bill and his stamps on that, he's connecting people again. So I would just challenge all of us to look for our way to be a little bit of a hero following his inspiration. And with that, I'd also like to hand it off to my partner in crime here, who we cast as Muhammad Ali. And it's not just because of the resemblance, it's because we understood he was tapping into an essence that we feel is so indicative of Muhammad Ali. And not only is he doing that, but he has already shown that he is committed to making a difference. So we got the right guy. Let me introduce again Jalen Best.
Yeah. Somebody tell him it was 5 minutes long. Way too, yeah, about 5 minutes. Thank you for allowing me to be here and give this speech right now. But yeah, I said this joke earlier upstairs. I said, this face like this, comes with a great deal of responsibility and a lot of photo requests too, And but yeah, I thought he told me I was getting cast to play Muhammad Ali, and I didn't know that meant in real life. A lot of people recently, especially more so, have been asking for autographs and also calling me champ. They're like, champ. I'm like, it must be the cheekbone. That's what it got to be. But yeah, I'll get started with my speech. But good afternoon, everyone. I'm a little different. I wrote something on paper. And to Lonnie and the rest of the Ali family that's here, thank you. And to the city of Louisville, Louisville. I got you. And to the United States Postal Service, thank you as well. And to everyone who still carries Muhammad Ali in their heart. And as you should, because if not, you got to catch the jab and the fancy footwork. Watch this. I knew I was going to do that one. But anyways, thank you for allowing me to stand here today and give this little speech that I prepared. So for all of you who haven't met me, I'm Jalen Best, and I have the complete honor and heavy responsibility, because it is indeed heavy, of portraying the greatest Muhammad Ali in this upcoming Amazon Prime series. And so if I've learned anything from my experience, you don't just come in and play Muhammad Ali. And you step into his shadows, and I guess you really just pray and you hope that you're brave enough to stay in those shadows. And Ali wasn't just great in the ring. That was a man that was dangerous to comfort. He was allergic to fear. He made the world adjust to him, and definitely not the other way around. And now, fittingly, the man who always showed up for the whole world is now being honored on the stamp. And so I said, think about that. I said, a little kid from little old Louisville. That's what I put in here. Some of y'all don't like that, but it's okay. I love small towns too. But yeah, a little kid from Louisville, Kentucky, who refused to be ordinary, is now traveling to every corner of the globe on million tiny little pieces of paper. It's incredible. And when I started my process of becoming Ali, I thought I was just really studying his footwork and, the popular fights and stuff that we see all day and whatnot. But I realized down the line, I was actually studying his conviction. And this was a young man who said, I am the greatest, before the world gave him permission to be. And in his words, he said, I am the greatest. That's what he said. But he made you feel bigger, right? He made you feel braver and less afraid to say what you believed. And so really tonight isn't just about a stamp, right? It's about a little spirit. I said this. A little spirit that told a young black boy from the South that his voice actually mattered. A little spirit that told a champion that standing up was worth more than staying and playing it safe. A little spirit that told the world, I know who I am. And so now I admit, trying to honor that spirit is very intimidating at moments, and or majority of the time it really is. And because how do you speak about a man, who could rhyme, who could joke, who could provoke, inspire, and also, change history all in one sentence? But if Ali has taught us anything, it's if you're scared, you say it anyway. If you believe it, you claim it anyway. And if your heart is in it, you let the world catch up later. And now, as his face travels the world on stamps, it's still delivering the same message. Be bold, be brilliant, be different, and be you. And, because in 2 days we celebrate his birthday, I would love to say, happy birthday, champ. And thank you for letting us all keep a piece of you even if it fits in the corner of an envelope. Thank you.
Thanks, Ben and Jalen. We're all looking forward to the film version of The Greatest. Earlier, Peter Villegas mentioned the former mayor of Louisville. I'm saying Louisville now instead of Louisville. And the role that Mayor Fisher played in bringing this moment to fruition. The campaign, Get the Champ a Stamp. And I think we can all say today, mission accomplished. Ladies and gentlemen, former Mayor Greg Fisher.
Well, hello, everybody. You're looking good. This is a fun day, isn't it? Well, look, throughout Muhammad Ali's multifaceted life, there was one constant: road work. Road work. When people praised his strength, quickness, bravery, beauty, qualities that he fully agreed with, by the way, he always said it was his road work, outworking everyone else, that made him great. So it took a huge amount of road work to get us to this celebration today. I'd like to join the chorus of thank yous to the team at the Ali Center, the U.S. Postal Service and Governor Stroman, my good friend Peter Villegas, for connecting with Lonnie to get the concept for the stamp started, and the United States Conference of Mayors and the late Houston Mayor Sylvester Turner for helping Peter and me launch the stamp effort with Lonnie in June of 2022. I want to recognize and thank my partner, former Congressman John Yarmouth, who's here as well. Let's give it up for the Congressman. He and I were partners throughout my 12 years in office. Now, the champ's death in 2016 set off a flurry of activity and emotion that was fueled by the world's love and respect for him. The celebration of Ali's life, I contend, was one of the last times that the world and our country felt unified. This event today provides a pause for us to consider the divided atmosphere that we're living in and do our road work to pull us together as a nation and the world. And it is absolutely possible. Muhammad's life is testament to how people can change how they see one another. Not everybody admired him early on. He was a brash young champion who became a vilified protester and was criticized for changing his religion by many. He paid the consequences, but rose again as a three-time heavyweight champion of the world and ultimately a global humanitarian who was then humanized through his final battle with Parkinson's. There was not a dry eye in the world when Ali, his body shaking, but full of determination, lit the 1996 Olympic flame in Atlanta. I think anybody that was watching that, he made us all feel empathy and reverence and our humanity through his physical display of fiery courage. After the champ passed, there was no question that Louisville would send off its favorite son with the dignity and the respect that he deserved. Over 1 billion people from the globe watched his homegoing ceremony. And the incredible documentary film, The City of Ali, was created to memorialize that special week and continues to inspire audiences around the world. We renamed our airport, as you've heard, to the Muhammad Ali International Airport to forever welcome people to the hometown of the champ. The film, the airport, and now the stamp are all ways Ali's values were turned into something permanent so the world could keep learning from him. Now, Ali famously said, as we've heard, that the only way that he would ever get licked is if a postal stamp was made for him. So, Ali now has a stamp. But we've got a problem. You no longer lick stamps. So it looks like the champ's forecast remains true. He will never be licked. Now, I wonder what he would say about that. They finally put the champ on a stamp, and he's still undefeated. No licking, no losing, delivered on time, still floating like a butterfly, still cruising. Because Muhammad Ali was never just a fighter. He was a force for compassion, a voice for dignity, a Louisville kid who became a citizen of the world. From our streets to every corner of the globe, his courage still travels, his love still delivers, and his legacy, like this stamp, sticks with us always. Now, the mail will keep moving, and stamps will keep changing. But what Muhammad Ali shows us with his forever stamp is that courage has no expiration date. Compassion outlasts the moment. And when you stand for what is right, your actions echo through time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Fisher. Our next speaker is the 58th Lieutenant Governor of Kentucky, Jacqueline Coleman. Lieutenant Governor Coleman is a lifelong Kentuckian, educator, and a leader devoted to service. A U of L alum, she served on the women's basketball coaching staff, thus following in the footsteps of her grandfather, Jack Coleman Sr., who was the university's first 1,000-point scorer, a U of L Hall of Famer, and a two-time NBA champion. How long ago was that? He played for the Rochester Royals and the St. Louis Hawks, neither of which exists anymore. Please welcome Kentucky's Lieutenant Governor, Jacqueline Coleman.
Well, good afternoon. You know, the thing is, when you are the last of a long line of speakers, a lot of people say some of the things that you were thinking about saying. But I think they put me here maybe because I'm a basketball coach. And so I know how to get my point across in a 60-second timeout. So I'm going to do what I can because I'm what stands between you and Lonnie Ali today. And that's what we're here to celebrate. So let me just say that a few themes have popped up today. Certainly that people might remember what you do, but they will certainly remember how you make them feel. And that history is a compilation of stories that get repeated through time. And if you're lucky enough and you're the greatest, you get to make the textbooks, right? So I never had the privilege of meeting Muhammad Ali, but I did have the privilege of teaching hundreds of juniors in high school every year about his life and his legacy. And I had a poster of him in my classroom because I always love to lift up our Kentucky superstars. And there is no greater superstar in Kentucky than Muhammad Ali. And to recognize that he is the reason that the term conscientious objector is in every high school U.S. history textbook in this country is pretty amazing, being able to teach students about that. And I too remember watching the 1996 Olympics and watching him come out of the darkness with that fire. I had no idea that Bob Costas was as surprised as the rest of us were. That's a nice story. But his life and his legacy and everything that he left for us is part of that history that we get to tell. And I have to say that a lot of times in history, the stories only live on if you have a great storyteller. So when it comes to storytelling, Lonnie, You are the greatest. To see the life that Muhammad lived, the example that he made, and for it to live on through the years and now become the Ali Center and all of the humanitarian awards that are given to people across this country, and to give the world a little piece of Louisville's greatest is an amazing, amazing journey for us to all be on and for us to all be here together. So to the family who is here today, his legacy lives on through you. Jalen, I thought you were family when I saw you upstairs, so that was pretty good. It's a good casting for you. But his legacy is going to live on because of moments like this. And that certainly has been earned through the lifetime of someone who can serve as an example for all of us, not just in the ring, but in the real world. Thank you guys all for being here today.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor Coleman. And now, as the Lieutenant Governor foreshadowed, it's my distinct honor to introduce our final speaker, Yolanda Lonnie Ali, a Louisville native. I almost feel like I should stop, and so I will.
As some of you in here might know, there is a difference between Yolanda and Lonnie, okay? Today you're gonna get Lonnie. Thank you, Bob. Isn't he wonderful? Let's give him a round of applause. He's absolutely wonderful for sharing today with us and emceeing this event. And I want to thank Jill, his wife, for coming with him to celebrate with us. I don't know where you are, Jill, but thank you so very much. Thank you to Jerry Bradley and the University of Louisville, the heartbeat of Louisville, this campus right here, this school right here, for allowing us to hold this event on the campus and in this stadium where Muhammad and I enjoyed many fall Saturdays watching Louisville football. And thank you to all those who spoke here today, whether in person or by video. And thank you to all of you who took time to come here today and share this moment with us. I want to give a special thanks to the family, our children who are here, our nieces and grandnieces and grandchildren. I really appreciate you taking the time to be here. And I have to tell you, I wouldn't be standing here today, you wouldn't be in this room enjoying this the way it is, the way it's set up, if it wasn't for Nicole Yates, who has been by my side, yes, and Yolanda Reed, and all of the center staff who have worked tireless hours to ensure this event came off with perfection for that man behind me. A special thanks to the many people who made this moment possible. Peter Villegas. I won't go into it, you know the story. He's the first one who thought of the idea to get Muhammad a stamp. Our former CEO and president of the Ali Center, Marilyn Jackson, and the then staff of the Ali Center who made the quest to get Muhammad a stamp their own. To Greg Fisher, who as mayor started Get the Champ a Stamp campaign along with Peter and took it national at the U.S. Conference of Mayors. Congressman John Yarmouth, Andre Carson, and then followed up with Congressman Morgan McGarvey and many other U.S. representatives who joined in the campaign. A lot of thank yous, got to show gratitude. Jamie Salter, Michael Bogie, and Mark Rosen, and my partners at ABG, who have been at my side for the past 11 years, helping to guard and protect the Ali legacy. Jeff Eisen, Ron DiNicola, and Seth Lehman, who worked tirelessly with the USPS to get the stamp over the finish line. And of course, the USPS, who welcomed the idea and became true collaborators to make this day come true. And thank you to our sponsors who made today's festivities possible: the Omni Hotel, Louisville Tourism, the Louisville Muhammad Ali International Airport, Barry Woolley, and BW Designs. And thank everyone just for being here. Those who are watching, I know we're live streaming, I believe. Thank you for tuning in. Those of you who knew him know Muhammad would have relished this moment. You won't believe this, but I can't believe this. Can I have my phone underneath you? I can't believe this. It would, this is Lonnie. This is typical of me. I have 2 pages of my 3-page speech. Just bear with me. I know I'm taking up time. Now I gotta find it. What did you say? No. I just need to find it because it's very poignant, and I can't seem to bring it up. Well, you know what? We've taken up a lot of time anyway. It's in pages. A lot of what has been said about Muhammad is true. Well, that's part of it, but that's fine. That's part of it. This is an abbreviated version, but well written. Of course it is. Muhammad, like I said, would have loved this moment. Not just because his face will now be traveling the world. Thank you. Give that back to him. No. Okay, got it. Not just because his face would be traveling the world. Not just because his face will be traveling the world, all around the world on envelopes. And I can almost hear him saying, "Don't I look pretty?" But he would have loved this moment for a much deeper reason, because Muhammad understood what this stamp truly represents. Muhammad was a master communicator. He understood the power of words and the impact of messages we send out into the world almost every minute of the day. He knew that our words can wound and they can heal. They can divide or they can unite. He would often remind me, mostly by example, words can crush a spirit or lift one up. There is a reason every letter and every figure in a message is called a character, because every message reflects who we are and what we value. Today, Muhammad becomes a forever stamp. But this moment is about more than just honoring the man. Just as he planned his memorial service to be a teaching moment of melting lines of division, bringing people together from all over the world, and showing we can treat each other with respect and kindness, I know he would want this moment to be a teaching moment too. This moment is an invitation to all of us, an invitation to pause and to ask ourselves before every word we utter, what stamp am I making on this world? What do my words leave behind? Muhammad spent his life showing up and showing us that true greatness is not measured by who we knock down, but who we lift up. We all have this power. Muhammad was a champion inside the ring, but his greatest legacy was compassion. How he showed up for people every day. How he disliked anyone speaking a bad word about someone in his presence. He showed us that compassion is not weakness, it is courage. It is seeing another person's pain and refusing to look away. This stamp will travel millions of miles. It will pass through countless hands, but it will quietly remind the world of a man who dared to believe that kindness could be powerful and that being in service to others could be heroic. But the greatest tribute we can offer Muhammad is not to admire him. It is to follow his example, to make our own mark, our own stamp on the world. So before you send your next text, message, email, or letter, I invite you to pause and ask one simple question. How can I lift someone up with this message? Because the greatest legacy any of us can leave is not fame. It is not victory. It is compassion. And that truly is forever. Just like this stamp and just like Muhammad's legacy. Thank you.
Thank you, Lonnie. There have been several references today to that moment at the opening ceremony in Atlanta in 1996, a moment because of the arc of Muhammad's life that was both powerful and simultaneously poignant.